HFDA Academy. Design DIALOG. Podcast formájában folytatódik a Magyar Divat és Design Ügynökség dizájnipari párbeszédeknek helyet adó kerekasztal-beszélgetés sorozata, a Design DIALOG.
I would like to welcome everyone who follows the Design Dialog podcast series. This autumn, Hungarian design will be in the spotlight again. Between the 1st of October till the 11th, Budapest Design Week will return in a hybrid form to which the Hungarian Fashion and Design Agency will join for the third time as a cooperating partner. During Hungary's largest design event, the agency has now organized an unusual regional discussion in the framework of the HFDA Academy Design Dialog, in which designers from the V4 countries express their views on the possibilities inherent in circular models. I'd like to welcome our participants here. First, Sárkele, product designer, interior designer, and designer. And Richard Nagy, designer and managing director of Co&Co Communications. Eliska Natkova, a material consultant of Materio Prague. Hello. Eva Bochen, founder and designer of Cosmos Project. And Vlasta Kubuskova, founder and creative director of Crafting Plastic Studio. I'd like to welcome you all, guys. And today's episode is to start and make a more active discussion about design and responsibilities and futures in design without the borders of our countries. So as you may well know, we had a prep call and we discussed a lot of these subjects earlier. And I'd like to jump back right into the discussion because it was starting out really good. First of all, my main question to you was that during your professional career, what was the first project, the first moment, the moment of epiphany when you realized that traditional ways in design, traditional practices are not going to end so well. So we have to be a little bit more responsible about our economy, about our habits of using products and materials and waste. When was that moment for you?
My first furniture, which I made by my hand, was made out of waste material, waste food. And somehow I didn't have to have a point when I decided to change. When I was studying design and when I was thinking about design, I was always thinking about and searching for a solution for sustainable materials, processes, craftsmanship. How can I involve this in my design process?
Vlasta, as I remember correctly, your main focus now with your studio is about mostly footwear and packaging right now, as we discussed yesterday. Oh, okay, and the loads of museum installations.
Hello. So. It's not quite right. We are not focusing on packaging. In Crafting Plastic Studio, we are dealing mostly with new innovative material and bioplastics in collaboration with material scientists, and we are trying to find different applications and new meanings for these materials, which haven't been used yet or are just at their start. For me, the start to work within a circular design or circular economy was already at the university, where it was quite clear for me. I studied product design and then later interdisciplinary design, but everything was about materials. And back then, maybe 15 years ago, it was quite difficult for young students, and I think this still is difficult to get the new materials which are maybe not already on the market, or those who are are not that transparent as I would like to have them. So we decided to use the option to collaborate with scientists to be able to know exactly what we are using, where it comes from, and to be able to get our future customers the right facts.
So, and Eva, so can you tell me about the first moment when you realized the need to do this? And also, I'd love it if you could answer the question.
Okay, so I don't exactly remember what was in which year it was. I think it was about 2013. We were having a show on Satellite in Milan, and yeah, it was a small show. There was a lot of designers already having the project that were called ecologic, or I don't know, made from biomaterials. But we realized that all around us, either all the exhibition materials, all the stuff used for this show that was already modern and ecological, is so it's like produce so much waste that we have to think globally about how we design, what we design, and how we show it. And it was, I think, our first thought that it have to be changed globally. All the thinking of design, not only projects that are made by designers, but everything have to be changed. That was the point, I guess.
Yes, I can recall that both you and Vlasta mentioned that during your projects, mostly, and you mentioned it also, Shadi, that exhibition designs are far more wasteful. Richard, can you tell me about your experiences in the field and also your moment of epiphany?
At the very first time, maybe when I finished my university, and I felt a little gap in the education for how can you understand and thinking of the sustainable designing. So I started a doctoral school at 2007.
You're a college dropout, yet you started doctorate school.
Yeah, so I started.
You're the Elon Musk of design, then, dude.
I try. So I have many research projects the last 1.5 decades. So maybe that was the first time when I realized that I need more information to transfer myself to thinking of sustainability. And maybe 1 year later, I had an interesting researcher project when I created a molding materials and tools. That's party tools like spoons, cups, and things like that. We created that. From the polylactic acid. This is from corn, and it's 100% biodegradable and compostable. So that was the point where I arrived and I forward the researching. So I research a lot, and I have many interesting projects for that team.
Great, that sounds great. Yes, about those biodegradable materials, I wanted to invite you in a discussion in front of or in between the questions that I read something just tonight. Just in preparation for our talk, that I'm a huge vinyl collector and music lover, and I'm guessing most of you are. And I just read an article in New Yorker magazine about how extremely wasteful streaming is. Because you need all the servers, you need all the routers, the cabling and everything. And the ecological footstep of being able to listen to music from any time, from any genre, from any band is really, really, really wasteful. So I was like, shoot, it's a good thing I'm collecting vinyl. But then the article follows, the producing of vinyl is far more worse because it's made out of oil. So what do you think in your practice are the most progressive materials? And well, I know Eliska is this question is a bit up to you because you're a material researcher, but please do lecture us. What are the most progressive materials you could use right now as a designer?
I think it really depends on the application. And when you are deciding between, for example, two materials which have different qualities and different advantages and disadvantages, I think it's great that we can use a life cycle assessment method, which can help you to gain the necessary data and necessary details about the real environmental impacts of the materials in this specific application, because it's very, very difficult to say and maybe even impossible to say which material is the best in terms of environmental sustainability, because it depends on the whole life cycle of the product. But I think what is really interesting, for me at least, for example, for the fashion sector, are materials made by microbes. There are several new developments in this field. For example, leather, which is made by yeast, and it's made of collagen, which is being made by the yeast. So you don't need the cow or goat to be killed, and it also should reduce the whole footprint, environmental footprint of the material quite radically. So I think this kind of bio-based materials, they are really interesting, but it always depends on the application, really.
So Vlasta, what's the most progressive material you've been working with lately?
Well, I have to agree with Eliska that I think the future of new materials are lying in the intersection of biology and material science. So definitely for me, the future is to work with growing materials. At this moment, we are working with bioplastic as Richard, but we are combining other polymers to PLA too, because also, as you said, PLA, it's mainly biodegradable and not compostable, and this causes lots of problems. And nowadays, I think bioplastic and green chemistry is maybe the solution for the next 10 or 15 years, but there are huge problems with labeling and also food ethic, since it's made from corn or other plant-based ingredients. So I think for me, it's definitely there are definitely growing materials, and lately we started. Lately, maybe 3 years ago, we started to collaborate with a friend of us who is also Slovak designer, but based in Kerala in India. And she is, for instance, developing an alternative for leather from coconut water, basically. But she is also using the same principle of growing microorganisms into bacterial cellulose, and then from that you can get material that's similar to leather. Even though I think also, as you said, that there's a huge problem with vinyls or with other products or mediums which we can't really replace with synthetic, with ecological bioplastic or other alternative. This is from my perspective, one of the biggest issues that we have to start use something else, So we have to get out of our comfort zone and maybe to find another medium to listen the music on. So
that would be a good one. So, well, I do prefer live. So Eva, do you have anything out of the ordinary and great and future thinking material in your field?
Yeah, lately we made the exhibition entitled Dematerialization on Idén Design Week. And it was basically a research exhibition because what we are doing now, we are making a lot of research just for ourselves and also to show other designers how we can use new materials. And what we found during this research, we found some. It's what girls say before also that there are a lot of bioplastics made from the waste, like from the agricultural waste or sewage, and I think this is the future because we are using to produce new material. We are using the waste we are producing. So it's like the circle. You do not need new material, new substances. We do not like to have crops or to use oil. We just use the waste. So in my opinion, it is the future of new materials. We have to reuse everything, all the waste we have in the world, not to use new sources.
Yeah, we have to start urban mining.
Urban mining, that's great.
Yeah.
Shadi, you mentioned before that you are having a problem or having a question in your head constantly, how to design new objects into a world which is already filled with objects.
That's a contradiction.
Yeah. So how do you find new materials? How do you find new inspiration in that?
I'm in constant search of materials, but I try to not just to focus on materials, but focus on the whole design concept, not just the design concept, the product itself, the cultural experience, how they use it, what are they doing it, and also the manufacturing process. And I think I am focusing, for example, I think it's a good solution to, for example, design for disassemble and to label materials and then to have the option to repair parts of the object or to recycle them or to reuse them. And of course, if it's possible to use already reused materials which are made out of waste. But I think it's also important what's going to happen with the object after life. So, for example, not to mix materials in a way then you can't recycle them.
You are talking about products and materials in a cycle, and you are considering the 3 dimensions in which we constantly are living. But there's a 4th one, time, obviously. So when my grandfather married my grandmother, the father of my grandmother planted a huge lot of trees. He wanted her to have nice wardrobes, nice furniture. So when they had the what's that called? When they had the marriage and they moved to a house and the kids started to come, he manufactured furniture. But what if my grandmother told him, "Oh, I want a bigger one," or "I want a taller one," or "I want a different one"? Then you can reuse that material, and it's biodegradable because it's wood. You can fire it. It's you basically let nature build it up, and then maybe you can't reuse it, because our society, our changing of generations, our changing of thinking does not allow us to reuse this. So to jump on the next question, this awkwardly, how does one designer face now the challenge to, let's say, force or let's say help users use new materials in a world when everyone's fast food, fast fashion, fast design products? You think about something, you go there, you buy it. And you don't think about using your grandma's old chairs or cabinets that easily. So how does one designer help his customers or users to do this?
I think the emotional connection between the object and the user, it's really important. And also making objects which are good quality, long-lasting, and maybe my kids or their kids gonna use them as well, and they're gonna love it as well. So I think this is one aspect, but there are so many aspects, and also somehow to educate people not to buy stuff that they don't need, and to make consciousness or to somehow promote them to think about, to make conscious decisions what they use. And for example, if we educate them about the materials or about the process what we use for this object, it can be a solution, or it can start something in the user's mind.
So you're aiming on emotions
as well, and consciousness.
And consciousness, which is education. Basically, it's education. Okay, Eliska, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think emotions can play a huge role, and storytelling can help as well. And there are several examples of materials which are quite popular now. For example, Econel, and it's basically regenerated nylon. And I think what helped Econel to become quite popular is the story which designers and companies using these materials can tell to the customers, because Econel is partly made out of waste fishing nets. And I think most of the people now they have this image in their head of fishes or dolphins caught in the nets. And when you tell them that you have material or you have product made of this material which is taking those nets out of sea, and you are making something new and beautiful out of it, I think that's something people are receptive to, and they are willing to pay even maybe bigger price for it, because they know the story behind the material. And I think this is quite crucial.
You're suggesting to go psychological too, Eliska?
Yeah, I believe so. That's probably a good way how to change the mindset of consumers. But for the companies, I think you have to work differently with them. You have to have arguments not just from the environmental point of view, but also from the business point of view. So, but often when you use waste materials, specifically pre-consumer waste, which, for example, a company is producing, and you show them and guide them how to use this kind of waste to make something out of it, they can often save money, which is a good argument for them to come or to switch to more circular mindset. So I think it's different for the work with end consumers and for work with companies.
Brought in corporate social responsibility into the picture, and we're starting to agree or disagree on losing costs versus losing profits, which would be a nice economical solution to most of the companies doing production. Vlasta or Eva, do you have a strong emotional connection, or do you have a particular material which you have particular story to, or did it ever happen to you that you reused something of this importance to you?
Connect this answer with the previous question, because in our case it was also very similar, but we didn't tell the story about the material from the origin of the material, but we tell it through the product we chose at the beginning. So when we started to work with bioplastics, we decided to find a way how to make an eyewear out of it, which was back then something that nobody could really imagine, not the scientists, not the customers, and also many people at the exhibitions when they saw the prototypes, they were asking us constantly if the frame will melt on their face while using them and so on. So for us, it was very important step to realize that the product itself can be a storyteller. And with the eyewear, we were trying to fight all this prejudice against the natural materials which are biodegradable, because they could last enough long when you need them, and once you don't need them, you can put them in the industrial or home compost, depends on the biopolymers. But exactly this is it. I think what also designers' role can be to find the gap between the disciplines, and maybe sometimes to come with the unexpected and useful solutions.
I'd like to know Richard's opinion about this.
I agreed all thoughts that I heard.
Cool, we're good to go.
Yeah, and I add a new perspective, so we can help to the leader of the manufacturers. How can they shift their minds to not only create products but create services? So sometimes we don't need to get a chair, but we would like to sit. We would like to light but not lamp. Sometimes you would like to listen to music, but maybe you don't need to have an instrument. So if we can help them, the manufacturers, to shift the business models, not only sell the products, but maybe licensing the services, it's a very interesting new way of the circular economy. So maybe not want to own product, but the service.
You're talking about renting, not buying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, because the owner is the manufacturer. So sometimes he or she need to figure out the old stuffs, the old devices. How can they update it to the next version?
It's the same thing with every generation's housing crisis. That every generation, from their respect, bears in mind that it's much more easier to rent a flat than to buy a flat or buy a house. But at the end of the day, such human qualities as ownership and responsibility and everything comes to light. And at the end of the day, you're ending up buying a house, not renting it because it's yours.
There are new solutions like this, all these co-living communities, which are in every cities that can be the future of living, where it depends on the business model. You rent it or you buy the house, but there are objects and events and whatever. The life is in the
My
community.
favorite is carpooling in that. So there's one community car to do all the grocery shopping, which makes absolute sense, because why 6 different people go to the grocery store and buy the same food and comes back to the same place instead of using one car to do that. Have you guys experienced these any of these problems during the COVID epidemic now? Were you restricted of going to the grocery store in certain amount of times as well? Or going outside, or I know you were restricted of leaving the country, but there were such restrictions. Did it lead to any more sustainable solutions about shopping, yada yada?
For me, these 2 months was quite restricted because we were in Spain and we couldn't go out from the house only once a week mainly, and only one parent, the kids not. So we were just walking once a day. It was very sustainable.
Really good.
Yeah, it helped to live a slower life, and it's interesting.
It was heaven for me. Alishka, how about you? How was it?
Here in Czech Republic, we could normally go to the grocery store and shop, but there were some hours in the morning which were just for elderly people. So, but it wasn't that bad. But
did it help
definitely
you slow down?
Yeah, it did.
Change the pace?
It really helped me to get more in the parks, not really in nature because I live in the capital city, but I was walking in the park every day, and that was super good.
Yeah. Eva, how about you? Do you normally cook as much as you did during the COVID?
No, I don't. Yeah, we cooked much more. We stay at home really much more than normally. We had these online meetings instead of traveling, so we didn't travel to our clients, and it turned out that it's possible, so we can limit our travels very much. It's sometimes hard doing the online design only, not to check the prototypes and everything. So it was sometimes hard. The hardest thing was with our kids because they were at home, home learning, and we couldn't go to the park and everything. So it was quite hard time. But on the other hand, we found new solution of like exercising at home or in our small garden, or just doing a lot of things that you can do at home instead of going out. Yeah, I think it was quite a new experience.
Funny, isn't it, that we're all mentioning a time where our ecological footsteps was significantly small. And those were those times when there were no television, internet, schools and everything. People were just like that, home with their kids in their garden, right? They prepped some tomatoes, they cooked it up. So it's what we're aiming for in the long shot is this. Just bear in mind that the COVID pandemic let us know that what kind of a slow life we're aiming to live here. And now we're all a bit afraid that we faced it in such short amount of time. But Vlasta, how was that for you?
Well, in our case, in Slovakia, it wasn't that there was no hard lockdown because we also didn't have that many cases. But it was quite interesting for me to have this experience to be at home and in the same city for such a long time because we live partly in Berlin and we travel a lot all the time. But also on the other hand, it brought me a lot of peace, which I haven't experienced before. And since we have now almost 1-year-old baby, we enjoyed the time together, also with my partner, with whom we are running the studio. And I must say that I realized that even though sometimes it's difficult to be a designer or run own company, but also on the other hand to be creative in such times like this can be a huge advantage. So for me, from what we were planning to do, there haven't been that many changes. But what we realize is that the design students we are working with were very confused. So I'm also a PhD student, and I'm teaching at a university in Bratislava. And at some point, we created something like, we called it COVID Collab, but we offer it to all students in Slovakia and Czech Republic as well to join us to speak about what's currently happening and how they can help. So for me, it opened up lots of many new perspectives on how to approach a new project and maybe to just think differently.
So moving on to a slightly harder and more professional subject here. And basically, that's the most interesting question I wanted to pose to you. That how do you think that a product or a material or anything purely part of a new reusable technology or circular economy-wise good product can be boosted, can be more attractive? How can we push it? What do you see in your practice? How can we boost this? What are the hardships? What are the good things? Because quite frankly, I'm not 100% sure when I'm faced with a regular product and a 100% gluten-free, reusable, biodegradable, blah, blah, blah. I'm not convinced all the time. And I'm not kidding. I'm not sure which one to choose because it's marketing. At the end of the day, it's pure marketing, and I can't fact check that it's 100% biodegradable. I can just read the label, and maybe it is, maybe it's not. So you see my point. I'm going to the store to buy tires for my car. There's regular tires, and there's vegan bioplastic tires, which are 3 times more, costly and more, efficient and whatnot. Maybe it's made in the same factory. What can I do as a consumer? We educate our users to that. Because as a designer, it's hugely your responsibility to fit this into the people's minds, I feel.
I think the users or the people gonna go and search these products. I think there are gonna be more, and I think what we are talking now, I mean these sustainable materials, the design process, stuff like this, gonna be like the new normal in 10 years time, or I don't know in how much time. And then I think trust and transparency is really important. I don't know the answer to this question, how to get to that point, but basically educated and to make all the products and all the processes as transparent as they can be, and the trust will come, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the founding of the social network, and I don't mean that social network. I mean. So how do you guys think about that? How can we, what are the hardships of boosting these new products, and how can we make our users sure that to use the degradable, the reusable, the more eco-friendly, the more reliable ones?
So I think this was the reason why we started to work with scientists, because we were not sure about the materials we are using, and also we experienced many times that when we were testing some products or materials that were claiming to be biodegradable, we realized that they are not in the end. And I think it's maybe really also about the time, because some years ago when there was this huge media coverage of plastic polluting oceans and so on, all the big companies started to use some kind of new circular materials as a marketing tool. But over the last decade, the customers started to ask better and better questions. So also the companies have to answer and have to be sure that they have all the certificates and so on. So I think from my perspective, we need to educate the customers to ask the right questions and even to educate the children and the adults about all this new waves of materials coming.
I think what we can certainly say is change always takes its time and course. And considering that this is a technological and a mindset change, it will run its course over the time, I'm thinking. So just thinking about using faxes and switching to post and then faxes and to email. So just consider the amount of time, and now using an email instead of using the post is normal. So it's just we just have to wait for it, I think. We have to keep pushing.
Because it's what I think it's very hard for our customers is to understand which materials, which products are really ecological, because there is no very transparent certification now, and this certification would help designers to choose the right materials, and also customers to be sure that it's not greenwashing, that it's 100% something that is really sustainable. That will really help, I think.
So in the course of overlooking this whole subject, we mentioned having emotional context. We mentioned education. We mentioned research. All subjects, quite frankly, I was thinking about something completely else. This conversation would turn to. I thought that we're going to go into huge professional leaps about manufacturing and whatnot, and we're talking about sensitive and personal ideas. And this is my basic giveaway to this subject, that design should be focused on people and on feelings, and this will turn itself around. Instead of using products and materials endlessly, we'll have to focus on the people again. As a person, what is your short and honest, really honest answer that why are you willing to do this research, this extra mile, this job? As a designer, why are you not satisfied with the current solution and just using, plastic and whatnot? What is your most deepest personal inner secret why you're seeking this better solution? 10 seconds. Go.
For me, 10 seconds. When I became a mom, I think it's this responsibility that I have to take care of the world, and I have to take care of my acts, what I'm doing and what I'm teaching to my kids, to my society, whatever. It's part of me. So to make a world where you can live in more than 100 years, 200 years, whatever, as well.
So I put in parental responsibility.
Yeah, and responsibility for everything. I mean, for the nature, for the planet, for the social connections, how we live our life, everything. Yes, basically responsibility.
Richard, 10 seconds.
I think we designers have a huge impact. So personally, I think I would like to take a positive impact and create anything how it's regenerate our nature, our land, and because of the next generation, I think we need to responsible of our world and our neighbors and ourselves. So that was the focusing task in my life and my soul.
Responsibility again. Eva, please go.
Okay, so as a designer is a person who puts into the market new objects, new projects, and we all know that there is too much of it. So now, as a designer, it's next time the responsibility, but new projects have to be thought thoroughly very much, because we are the responsible for putting them into the market. That's why we have to think about it very, very much.
Responsibility 3-0. Okay. Alishka, please shed a light on this.
For me, I think it's a combination of fear, curiosity, and empathy, because I'm afraid of what will happen if we don't change this whole system. And also I'm very curious because I think there are so many new options and new challenges and new opportunities. So it's also very exciting for me.
Okay, responsibility 3, fear 1. Vlasta, please.
So for me, I think it was the moment when we went quite deep into the research and realized that we are basically the last generation that can accelerate the change or any change to help the planet. And this became for me almost something like a mission. So I think also what you said, that maybe design need to get back to people. I think design now has to be in focus in people and nature, definitely, in this combination. And for me personally, as Alishka said, it's also very exciting to work in this field of new materials, not just because I like to play with materials, but because it brings many new perspectives in interdisciplinary collaborations, which can create amazing solutions and our future, basically.
The future, that's great. And it's so good to hear all of you guys taking care in the planet's history. I'd like to thank you, all of you, to sharing your thoughts and being so enthusiastic about our future. And it's really good to sit virtually and physically amongst people who are so responsible and so thoughtful about the future. As you may well know, we're in the middle of organizing a great exhibition here at HFDA, the Hungarian Fashion and Design Agency, which is focused on the greatest regional and Hungarian designers' work, both physically and virtually. And I would like to invite you all who are participating in this conversation and who are watching it to join us from the 8th of October till the 11th. Thank you.